wanted to talk about the blackouts. That's the main topic today. Ecuador has been going through some unexpected blackouts, and today the president went ahead and made a executive decision, an announcement, a decree.
That's what I thought. I got a 3-point plan to fix everything.
So to speak, about the energy crisis that's going on. Give you a little background. Last year and beginning of this year, we were going through a energy crisis. What we were told was that it was due to the drought, and there has been a drought in the country, in the areas of the country that produce the hydroelectric power. Those ended early this year, and the country was purchasing power from Colombia and from Peru. Well, recently Colombia announced that it would no longer be able to supply that power. Now, whether it's some political thing or if they really are having their own drought, they basically said they couldn't continue to supply that power. And an announcement was made that Ecuador may have to go back into rationing until the situation had improved. A couple days ago, there was just an unannounced blackout overnight for like 3 or 4 hours.
Yes.
And, we knew because our air conditioner turned off.
And again this morning.
And again early this morning.
Exactly at 1 o'clock, and it stays off about 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it's hot.
Yeah, it was a little warm. Because, where we are, we will often sleep with the windows open, but recently it's just been warm. So
Yes.
there was no breeze blowing, and it was a little uncomfortable. That happened after the government made the announcement that there would be rolling blackouts today, which is Tuesday, and tomorrow, Wednesday, for scheduled times.
Yes.
So for where we live, the scheduled time was 1:30 in the afternoon. Well, that announcement came out yesterday, and the power still went off last night at 1 a.m.,
At 1 a.m.
which was unannounced.
Yes, and it didn't just happen in Salinas.
Yeah.
It's actually happening in like Cuenca, I think Manta, and
throughout
different.
the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are wondering like, why are these blackouts happening at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Some people are in their CPAP machine and they need oxygen, and it's not happening.
Yeah, or even
And
just for security reasons.
Right.
Or just alarm system to work.
No explanation at all
Yeah.
as to why these things are happening.
So there's an impending scandal happening. Allow me to read something real quick. So an energy researcher named Jose Alvier, I hope I'm saying that right, he did an interview with Ecuavisa, which is a news organization here. To basically summarize, he was saying that the 22 plants here in Ecuador that supply power haven't been properly maintained, and they weren't properly maintained in the previous administration. There was about $80 million worth of work that was supposed to happen that didn't. That is the actual reason of the shortfall. It is in combination with the fact that there hasn't been enough rain and the lack of maintenance. So basically, of the plants, not all of them are operating to their full capacity or operating at all, which is why there's a shortage of power. So what he was saying is that it will cost $700 million to $1 billion to completely revamp the entire system, money that the country doesn't have for that purpose, because of $80 million of maintenance that didn't happen previously.
Happen. Well, do we know what happened to the $80 million?
No.
No.
But
okay.
There's speculation that there was sabotage involved, that previously,
the previous
don't know
administration?
who, but someone or some organization was involved in sabotaging the power system. Thinking about it, it sounds reasonable. Fast forward, Daniel Noboa, the president, has announced a state of emergency for the power grid, basically. What he's going to do is, what he said was that it's unacceptable that the Ministry of Energy tells him at the last minute that it's going to have to be a blackout tomorrow.
So before you finish, you're saying the Ministry of Energy announced or informed him when?
Last minute. It was, I guess, maybe the day before yesterday about the blackouts that will happen today and tomorrow.
Okay. So he made the announcement today?
Made the announcement today. So Daniel Noboa asked for the resignation of the Minister of Energy, Andrea Robo Pena, and has basically accused her and the previous administration of sabotaging the electrical system. There's also issues with the infrastructure from the Guayaquil all the way up to coast So those areas are a little more vulnerable to any interruptions. So with the potential for sabotage, the president has basically deemed anyone involved as a traitor to national security, and they're going to be prosecuted, whoever was involved. So he also contacted CNEL, which is the supplier of electricity throughout the country, to reduce the electrical cost of everyone in Ecuador by 50%. Which, all right, okay, go ahead, Naboa, all right, I see you.
For how long?
For the month of April, sorry. So for the month of April, everyone's electrical costs will be cut in half. So that's a pretty big step, honestly. He was basically saying that because this is so inconvenient and so it's such a bad situation for Ecuadorians. It had nothing to do with them. Ecuadorians didn't do anything wrong. The government basically failed them, and there was some sabotage involved. So his way to kind of give back is to cut everyone's electrical bill in half, which, hey, I can get down with that. Hopefully, since he instated the emergency with the power system, that there's not going to be any more interruptions. He did say that there will not be any more interruptions.
Going forward?
Going forward, we'll see. The ones that were already scheduled for today, so currently we're in a blackout right now for a few hours. So today and tomorrow, they're scheduled blackouts. What he was saying is there wouldn't be any more.
After today?
After today, I guess, after tomorrow.
After tomorrow, so April 17th.
Right. Unless
Okay.
there's, some extenuating circumstances, of course. What he was saying is that, there won't be any more blackouts because it's really inconvenient for the country. Of course, it would take a lot of money to correct this. One of the options they have is like getting power from like barges offshore and purchasing power from other areas. And those are things they're exploring, and hopefully that gets taken care of so that there is no shortage. And hopefully, fingers crossed, there's more rain to produce more power on our own.
So it sounds like once they do the maintenance or they repair those grids, we shouldn't have any blackouts.
No, and what they were actually saying is that Naboa and the gentleman I spoke about earlier, what they were both saying is that there's no reason for us to be having the blackouts except for the fact that
The lack of rain.
the plants weren't maintained.
Okay.
Even the lack of rain, even though it's a contributing factor, they're like, there still shouldn't be any blackouts if the plants were properly maintained.
Okay.
There will still be enough power generation to cover everyone in the country.
Okay.
In other news, President Maduro of Venezuela has closed the Venezuelan embassy here in Ecuador, kind of in solidarity with Mexico, ending their ties with Ecuador. So this story continues to kind of go through its paces and course, and we'll see what comes of it later. Like I said before, hopefully it just gets resolved diplomatically. So fingers crossed on that. Also, this Sunday, the 21st, there will be an election. Well, not really an election, a vote for Ecuadorians. And I'm going to briefly go over some of the bullet points that they're going to be voting on. The first one I'm going to read is, do you agree to allow the armed forces supplementary assistance in national police efforts to combat organized crime? So that was pretty straightforward. Do you want to continue letting the military help the police in matters of crime, which I believe most Ecuadorians would probably agree with, but I don't know. Do you agree to allow the extradition of Ecuadorians by the conditions, requirements, and restrictions and constraints established in the Constitution? So this has to do with extraditing Ecuadorian citizens to other countries, I believe. I'm not as well versed on this one, but we'll see what the Ecuadorian citizens vote on that. Another is, do you agree to amend the Constitution of the Republic and reform the labor code for fixed term and hourly labor contracts when they are established for the first time between an employer and employee? This is kind of it's a labor thing, obviously. As people that don't work here in the country, I don't know what the Ecuadorians would really think about this. I assume that this amendment they're voting on would make it better for the workers. The next one, do you agree that the armed forces will engage in permanent arms, munitions, and explosives control operations on the highways, roads, routes, and corridors that provide authorized entry to social rehabilitation centers? Basically, the military performing security on the roads and in prisons, I believe. I think, from what I can tell, the Ecuadorians may agree with that. But like I said, we'll see. Another, do you agree to increase the penalties for crimes of terrorism and is financing the production and illicit trafficking of substances subject to controls, organized crime, assassination, contract killing, human trafficking, kidnapping for extortion, arms trafficking, money laundering, and illicit mining activities? I'm pretty sure that the citizenry of Ecuador is going to agree that there probably does need to be increased penalties for those things. Do you agree with the establishment of the crime of possession of arms, munitions, or components whose use is restricted to the armed forces and national police, not to affect firearms permitted for civilian use? Basically, is it a crime to possess arms and munitions that should only be in the control of the police? Do you agree that weapons, their parts or components, explosive munitions, or items that were instruments or material objects of a crime can be designated for immediate use by the national police or armed forces? So basically what that means is the seizure of weapons and munitions and stuff like that, like in the States where a police department can seize vehicles and all kinds of stuff and they'll use them in like undercover operations. Here what they're basically saying is if they seize weapons and munitions, can they then use those weapons and munitions? Now this one, on a personal level, I don't know if that's the best idea because some of these weapons that they're seizing aren't of quality. You don't know if they're like kind of handmade or where they were made, and it's not controlled. So I don't know if they would necessarily even be safe or smart to use, but I guess they would have to kind of separate which ones to use and which ones not to use.
So they would need to be inspected, and the ones
Exactly.
that are not inspected, they can discard or get rid of or destroy.
Right, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see what the Ecuadorians think about that. Of course, we're not allowed to vote. So
We're not citizens.
we're not
that's why.
citizens yet. But yeah, that's what's going on this week.
A lot is going on.
A lot
this
is going
week.
on. I actually wanted to do like a news update, but there was so many different things happening, and then we had some stuff we had to do. So that's what's going on. If you hear about the blackouts, that's the news. Honestly, it's partially due to the drought, but mainly due to lack of maintenance and corruption. It's the big thing here is corruption and sabotage potentially. So I will give some kudos to the president for jumping on this one immediately. I can't really complain. Anyway, it's a nice day. Like I said, our power isn't on right now, so
Like, share,
like, share, subscribe, and we'll be back soon.
See you next time.
Bye.
Give him our word. He's gonna be harmony. He's gonna do it our